turn it over to our presenter for today. I'd like to welcome Gabriel Fox from the Niagara Falls Public Library.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, everybody. You can hear me okay? Good? Okay, perfect. So we do have a poll. Jen, the poll's been sent out?
I'm going to relaunch it now.
We have a little poll here just to kind of take a survey here of anyone who does have a seed library. If you are working on it, if you don't have one, we kind of just want to see how many of the attendees currently have a seed library at their libraries before I begin.
It looks like a few, quite a few interested. Okay, great. I'm going to end the poll just so it doesn't take up too much time, but thank you for the feedback. That's good to know going into this.
Ooh, okay, awesome. So 21% said yes, 21% said we're working on it, and 58% said no, not yet. So for the 58% of you, I hope that this talk is going to be really helpful. I am going to turn off my screen while I'm giving the presentation. And as Jen said, about halfway through, if anybody has any questions in the chat, I can address those just so that we're not holding everybody up at the end and just so you don't forget it by the end either. So hold on one second. Alrighty, how to start a seed library. So just to begin with the indispensable preliminaries, what is a seed library? A seed library is a community-based collection of seeds that are shared and distributed among members, similar to a traditional library. Community members can borrow seeds, grow plants, save seeds, and if they choose, return some seeds to replenish the library's stock. Seed libraries promote seed diversity, community networking, food sovereignty, and localized gardening knowledge. They are a free educational resource for all communities. Now, you might think, oh, what is a seed library? Well, we put the seeds in the seed library. People take them out. If they want to, they can return them. But this last bullet point, I really kind of want to focus on this throughout the talk. I'm going to keep coming back to how seed libraries are so much more than just checking out, borrowing, and donating back. Some basic seed library facts. Just to begin, the first contemporary seed library was created in 1999 at the Berkeley Ecology Center as the Bay Area Seed Interchange Library, or BASIL. The first seed library to be established in a public library was at the Gardner Public Library in Gardner, New York, and was developed by Ken Green in 2004. So these have only been around for 20 years, but already there are over 450 seed libraries in the United States, with several more seed exchanges. The number of seed exchanges throughout the country actually vastly exceeds the number of seed libraries. Oftentimes, they are located in public libraries and community centers. They've become extremely popular in public libraries over the past 5 years. And the Seed Library Network Census has counted over 2,000 seed lending libraries and exchanges internationally. Toward the end of the talk, I'm going to provide some more information on the Seed Library Network and also on the census. It's a really, really cool tool. They have a map, an actual visual map that they've mapped out, and you can enter in your seed library if you want to from your library. And just to get more and more information. Why are seed libraries important? This is kind of touching on all of those sort of important community knowledge sort of things. Far more than just, oh, I take it, I go home and I garden with it. Food sovereignty and security. This is super, super crucial. Doesn't matter if you're working at an urban library, a rural library, a suburban library. Food sovereignty is the right of all people to nourishing and culturally appropriate food. It's really a way for the community to take back control from the food system, from corporate food, from artificial preservatives, from all of the crazy stuff that is in the food that you'd get in drugstores, in gas stations. This is really, really, really crucial. Creating community. It's a good way for people to talk to each other. It doesn't matter if it's plant exchanges. It doesn't matter if it's people trading seeds, preserving seed diversity, local resilience. This is a good way to save food costs. It's a good way to get healthy and nourishing food when there are no other options. And especially with things like the funding cuts that are happening federally to libraries, to the IMLS. If you're in areas where state and local taxes can't necessarily fund, to the same degree that maybe, other cities and communities can fund places. It is a kind of way of the community banding together in solidarity and sort of using all of their cachet, all of their knowledge, exchanging knowledge about seeds. Food justice. I'm going to get into that in just a second. I'm going to share a paper from the Urban Libraries Council in just a minute about why food justice is so important. Educational gardening resource, just teaching people to garden. It doesn't matter if you're, 75 or 7. This is a great way to give people a kind of hands-on ability to garden for themselves. Preserving genetic diversity. This is sometimes seen as more of a seed bank kind of thing. There is a difference between seed banks and seed libraries, but it does come into play. Overcomes a lack of access to seeds. Not everybody is going to have a hardware store or a Home Depot right around the corner. You might be, in a community where you don't have access to that. And so this does give you access to that. It's very important. It allows communities to experiment. So it's just creativity. I've never tried planting this before. I think I'm going to try planting it now. It saves money, ties into other survival skills, canning, preserving. Again, this is more sort of localized community knowledge. It all kind of comes together. Provides alternatives to genetically modified foods. And yeah, I think I covered the other ones earlier. So where to begin? So donations and purchases. The whole point of this talk is kind of to give you an idea of how to start your own seed library while minimizing labor and costs. It's essentially how to deploy these community resources as efficiently as possible so that everyone in your community gets a piece of the pie without breaking the bank. And the beautiful thing about seed libraries is that they are incredibly flexible. There is no one-size-fits-all solution for how to do a seed library. Not everything is going to be planned 100% in advance. When you're piloting this, you're going to see what needs to be changed. You're going to get community feedback. And I'm going to get into that also. Doesn't need to be a card catalog for storage either. It could be anything. You can literally start from nowhere. As long as you have the public space and you have a community, those are really the only two things that you need to get going. So with that being said, I'm just going to give an example of 5 companies that Niagara Falls Public Library has worked with. I'm in my 2nd year as a librarian, and I'm in my 2nd year sort of working through the seed library. And this is just sort of my own personal experience in terms of what I've been doing, who I've been reaching out to, how I've been doing things. Basically, there are 2 ways. There's the free way and there's the cheap way. And so the free way, of course, is going to be soliciting donations from nonprofit organizations or companies and seed exchanges that want to send you seeds for free. And that's via donation form. So I'm going to go through that. It's a little bit like writing a grant, but it's a lot less pressure and a lot less time consuming. And then the cheap way. This is where you're going to spend a little more money, but you're not really going to be spending too much money. This is a situation where if you don't have the money to purchase seeds affordably, then you may need help from a Friends of the Library organization if you have one. But really, it shouldn't cost more than $100 in most cases to get large amounts of seeds back from the companies that you would pay. And this is also not limited to New York State. This is all across the United States. So Right Seeds is in Portland, Oregon. Hudson Valley Seed Co. is right here in New York. Those are 2 options where we've used for free donations for seeds. And then Vermont, Spanish Fork, Vermont, Wolcott, Vermont. You're going to notice there's a lot of Vermont in this PowerPoint, and homegrown as well. So this is not just necessarily, you're not stuck with New York if you want to, cast the net wider. So for donations, I'm just going to kind of walk through what to expect for a company like So Right Seeds. Seed donation program. Basically, the goal is to support charitable organizations who help members of their communities in need of supplemental food. And what this essentially means is that if you are a nonprofit, you are going to be filling out this form with the name of your organization, your contact name, all of the normal stuff. And then you're going to be supplying reasons. They give you a chance to tell you about organization's mission, current projects and initiatives, They want to hear essentially in kind of the same way that a grant might, what is going on in your area? Why are people deprived of seeds? Why do people not have nourishing food options? And you're going to want to tell them the story of your community, and they will send you, they will most likely send you things based on what you tell them. But you do want to just be honest about what your mission is, who you're trying to feed, how many people are going to be interested in taking advantage of the seed library. So these are just normal forms. This is exactly what I just said. May we share your story on website, social media accounts, and then just provide how you're going to be fighting hunger at So Right. And then you'll receive these confirmation emails pretty much immediately. And this is all pretty standard stuff. You're going to want to take heed of stipulations, though. So if you are not acting in the role of usually public libraries, you should be fine, but the goal is to support charitable organizations. So community kitchens, food assistance programs, food banks, soup kitchens, food pantries, nonprofits, and hunger relief programs. Libraries are going to fit under these headings in most cases. If you are working with community kitchens or food assistance programs in your community, if you do work for a food bank or a hunger relief program, there's really no reason why you wouldn't be able to have donations and make a donation to the seed library that way as well. And then they will send you a collection of 25 to 100 seed packets. Usually it's in the upper range of that from my experience. You usually get about 70 to 80 seed packets. Sometimes you get even more. They really do provide you with a lot of seeds. And within each of those seed packets, you have a number of seeds that can then be broken up into even smaller envelopes. And I'm going to show that process later as well. And these are just some request forms for Hudson Valley and high mowing seeds, just to show you the difference. I mean, there's a Google form for Hudson Valley and then just a regular donation order form for high mowing. So some things that you're going to want to consider before you begin. Your audience, that is the most important thing. You are trying to give power back to the community. You're trying to get people to tell you what it is that they need. What are their seed needs? For urban libraries, you might want to prioritize container plants in gardening. That's a huge, huge thing. A lot of us think, planting in my garden. A lot of people don't have gardens. A lot of people do not have property. A lot of people are renting. A lot of people, they might just have a small porch space or a small window space, and you want to prioritize container plants because people are not always going to have the ability to just have this beautiful garden in the backyard. The beautiful thing about container planting is that there are so many different things that you can do. All sorts of vegetables. I'm going to get into this a little bit later as well. Rural libraries, you might want to prioritize non-container or in-ground plants. It really depends on your situation. If you are able to garden, if you do have space, if you do have the space for in-ground plants. Again, obtain input from community members about their seed needs. Polling never hurts. You're going to want to probably send out a poll ahead of time. Maybe print up a form that basically says, hey, what would you like to see in the seed library? Herbs, vegetables, fruits. What is it that you would like to do? The goal is to obtain as many free resources as possible while minimizing labor and costs. A lot of librarians do not have all the time in the world to be, putting seeds into packets, printing up templates, printing up labels, constantly restocking. The goal is to make this as simple as possible and to essentially, again, deploy community resources as efficiently as possible. Some other things you might want to do, this isn't going to apply to all libraries, but you might want to supplement introductory garden books into your collection development. If you feel that the gardening books are maybe a little old or out of date, or you want to update or have something kind of sitting near the seed library, that can help too. Let people know that you have help in the manner of introductory books that are located next to the seed library if they want to take them out. If you have a tool library, this is a great way to integrate your tool library with the seed library. A lot of times you're going to have rakes, hoes, garden tools, so that works as well. Community health and healthy eating initiatives. There are all sorts of community organizations usually around your library. If there aren't, then that's fine too. Then the seed library is even more important. But if you can have speakers who might want to come to the library and speak on their community organization and how it ties into the seed library, If you have a beautification commission, community organizations, especially for volunteers and people power, maybe you have people who want to volunteer to help you do all of the labeling and all of the tracking for the seed library. And again, provide speakers and community resources can help with programming. I'll go into programming a little bit later too. Seed bombs are very popular. Plant exchanges. I've read a lot of libraries doing plant exchanges to launch their seed library. So those are all wonderful things. Libraries and food justice. This is, I've put a link here. The slides are going to be sent to everybody after the talk. There's a link here to this white paper by the Urban Libraries Council. Food is a right, libraries and food justice. Everybody deserves to eat. Food is a human right. I hope that's not a controversial opinion. For a community to be secure, food must be accessible, physically and economically affordable, and nutritious. There is an enduring racial wealth divide in the United States economy that is shaped by systemic racism, and it profoundly impacts food security for communities of color. Lack of quality food access due to economic and geographic limitations is widespread, and it does result from discriminatory policies and practices. You've probably heard people talk about food deserts, or food apartheid is also a term that people are now using. The seed library is one way that you can combat food insecurity. Individuals who face food insecurity demonstrate, quote, adverse social, physical, and psychological outcomes. Again, these are all from the Urban Libraries Council. Outcomes range from diabetes and hypertension to behavioral challenges and developmental delays. This is very common in urban libraries. It is also very common in rural libraries. Both urban and rural libraries tend to see a library presence in underserved areas that is also significant. So there's a large overlap between areas without nourishing options and areas with public libraries. And therefore, libraries can have the biggest impact, and the seed library can help with that. You can work hand in hand also with food distribution for youth and adults in the area. So these are some free tools and resources from some of the companies that I named earlier. These will not cost you anything. And again, these slides are going to be sent out. So hopefully you can use this to explore some of these options on your own time if you want to. Homegrown Garden has wonderful grow guides. These are free downloadable PDF packets. They're fairly in-depth. I mean, they're not too complicated, but they're usually about 15 to 20 pages each. And they are wonderful, wonderful for all sorts, flowers, vegetables, herbs, you name it. And as you can see on the right-hand side over here, you've got these starter kit grow guides for very specific plants and also flower grow guides right here. Gardener's Basics. They provide vault kits and grow kits, survival seed kits. Again, this is not a free option, but it is a cheap option. If you feel like, $29.95 for all of these seeds, again, within one of these packets, you could probably have about 5 or 6 envelopes. So you're really kind of multiplying very quickly the number of seeds that you can get out to people. And then also So Right Seeds has a planter's library. This is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly useful. If you want to, some of the articles that you will find here, and I'll show one in just a slide, you can also print these up and provide these as free resources as well if you wanted to have literature next to the seed library. And this is an example, 10 must-have gardening tools every beginner needs to grow like a pro. This is all extremely helpful for somebody who's just, who might not have a green thumb, but is just starting to get into gardening and is really wondering what they should do. And then jackpot, you will get your seeds after you fill out the donation forms. And then you're in the way of basic hardware. So here's what you're going to need to do and get in the way of physical items and costs. The first thing is you might want to start an Excel spreadsheet for your inventory. This is the spreadsheet that we have for our seed library this year. If you need to create a new tab for the year, spring 2025, up here. And then we have different categories. So we have drop downs for vegetables, flowers, fruits, and herbs. Those are the 4 types, and they're color coded. Throughout our seed library, we use color coding for vegetables, flowers, fruits, and herbs so that things don't get mixed up. And then you're just going to provide the date that you acquired it, the brand, the type, the variety, and then the number of commercial packets that you received, and then the number of packets that you're going to be distributing that you've invented. Housing and storage. So you can really do anything. That's the beauty of repurposing things for a seed library. You can get creative with repurposing. Not every library is going to have an old card catalog kicking around in storage. You might you might have very, very limited space. You might have a lot of space. You might have a lot of space for a beautiful card catalog, but a lot of libraries are not going to. If you're in a smaller building, you might just have a tiny corner to be able to commit and dedicate to building a seed library. That's fine. A lot of these examples that I'm going to be showing you are from the Seed Library Network. This is Plymouth District Library in Michigan. Again, this is tiny, it's quaint, but it's effective. And there's little brochure holders as well. This doesn't take up very much space. You're going to want to consider your budget. How much of a budget can you spend on housing and storage, you know? And ideally, you want to spend little to nothing. Consider climatic conditions. I'm going to get into that in just a second in terms of what are the right temperatures, how to avoid vermin, all of that sort of thing. And then language and accessibility needs. If your community, if you know that there are multiple languages that are spoken in your community, you're probably going to want to provide resources in those languages. You're going to want to make it so that people can understand what's going on in the seed library. You don't necessarily want to limit it just to English, but it all depends on your community's needs. So again, you can use anything. It doesn't have to be a large space. It could be these tiny plastic containers. You could put them in binders. A lot of libraries put them in binders. Sports card binders are very, very useful. Old recipe boxes and shoe boxes. I mean, you really don't need to break the bank in order to do this. Some things to be aware of. Rodents are attracted to seeds. It doesn't matter whether town mouse or country mouse. It doesn't matter if you're in the city or if you're in a rural library. If you know that you have issues with squirrels or with mice or with rats, you're going to want to put things in rodent-proof storage containers and not leave seeds out in the open. And honestly, it's probably just best practice to follow in any case. Storage for seeds should always be dry, cool, and dark. You're going to want to avoid high humidity, warmth, and moisture. We've got this sort of molding plant over here. This is especially true if you are thinking about providing little freebies with your seed library. I'll show a picture later of, we took like little Huggy containers and we kind of put little dill starters in them. So if you have actual plants that are growing on top of the seed library or near the seed library, these are all really important things to follow. So again, I'm just going to show some examples of repurposed materials. Again, it could be anything. This is the University of Utah Seed Library. As you can see, I mean, they're reusing dividers here. A lot of public libraries, you might have kind of old dividers like this or similar things kicking around. Those are perfect, you know, and tape in front. It's as simple as that. And then, of course, information here on what everything is, how much of everything is provided, and then just questions, requests, and email. So that's one way to do it. San Diego County Library. Again, this is beautiful. Limit of 2 seed packets per household per day, and then you've got the brochures. And then again, you've got little sort of starter plants and some cute decorations. Essentially, this wouldn't cost you anything more than just getting the seeds themselves and then finding something to house them in. This was interesting. This is actually, I sourced this from Wikipedia, and don't tell anybody that I did that, but I did. This was just interesting to me because, you know, using an old mail slots and actually using envelopes, it just seemed kind of quirky. Again, baskets, this works. You know, repurposing an old drawer, and then you've got, you know, the North Florida Vegetable Gardening Guide up here. And then Central Library, Indianapolis, you know, you might have, for instance, this looks like brochures or paperbacks, you know, any kind of rotating display that you might want to throw it out because, you know, it's been ages since you had CDs or cassettes that you've been putting them in. You know, this is a good way to reuse that. And then a small collection of books as well. Again, this is the introductory sort of gardening collection development that you might want to include so that, you know, people have some guidance if they want to kind of DIY it. Binders, this is from Portland, Michigan. Now, this looks, you know, you may think, well, this looks kind of minimalist, but that's fine. If this is all the space that you have, then this is perfect. Herbs, fruits, vegetables, and flowers. Again, you might want to color code the binders. And then that should be matching in the brochure as well. But this is fine. It's no fuss. It's elegant. It's, you know, I don't have a problem with it. It looks great. And again, just a repurposed box. This is sort of the, you know, Guess Who version of seeds. And again, a binder for growing and seed saving instructions. And I'm assuming that's free literature that people can take out pertaining to each of the seeds. Another thing that you might want to do, this is from the Walpole Seed Library in Massachusetts. If you have any way of tying this in with art programming, that's another thing. I mean, you could have, um, local artists, even if you have community centers for the arts. If you want to promote their work, you can have them design and paint a repurposed card catalog or anything else, really. We have a seed donation box. We had a library clerk who is now he's teaching art classes in Niagara Falls, and he made a beautiful seed donation box for us that I'll show you later. Envelopes. This is just how I do it. Again, doesn't have to be this way, but this is just one possible potential way of going about this. 2.5 inch by 4.25 inch number 3 coin envelopes. Typically, these are sold in 500. They are fairly expensive if you're going to go to Office Depot. I mean, I paid, I think, maybe $46 or something like that, which seems kind of outrageous to me. But you also want to stick to your values. If you have issues with ordering from Amazon, if you don't want to give Amazon another penny, then I completely understand that, and more power to you. There's all sorts of other places online where you'd probably be able to order the envelopes. And labels. I use Avery 5163 labels. These are just, again, 2 inch by 4 inch. And you can download the template for free from the Avery website. And then you just open with Microsoft Word, you color code them depending on the colors you need, and then you just type in the information. And I'll give you some examples of exactly how I've done that and how they look when I format them in Microsoft Word. Again, if you have a Friends of the Library organization, the costs of labels and envelopes is something that you might want to go to them and just request money for if you have that option. So this is just an example of color coding: flower pink, herb green, fruit red, and vegetable yellow. And we keep this consistent with everything that we do for the Seed Library, whether it's in Excel, whether there's small colored tabs that we put into the Seed Library that are alphabetized, and I'll show you those as well. And eventually it's going to look like this. This just shows how it gets from the commercial packet to the Avery template. So in Microsoft Word, once you download that Avery template, you're going to be able to have the ability to just simply type over this space. So the vegetable, of course, would be yellow, and then you have arugula, the actual type of plant, and then you have the variety of the arugula, Aruca sativa, or the asparagus in this case, Mary Washington, or beets, bull's blood. And then on the bottom, I show the commercial person, the actual commercial distributor, or the person who sent it to us, or the nonprofit organization that sent it to us. And then this is just what a bunch of them look like together, just to give you an idea of the difference in color coding. And again, you only need to type these up once, and then you would print out, say, maybe 4, 5, 6 copies. For instance, if I needed 12 envelopes of arugula seeds, if I was going to split up that packet into 12 different envelopes, I would just print up this page 6 times. And herbs and fruits. Generally always get less fruits from donations. That's just a heads up. And fruit is, for some reason, it has not been as popular, and I'm not sure why that is. So I'm thinking about bulking that up next year. And then this is just to show kind of what it looks like when you're done. You print them up. Vegetation Station is the name of our seed library. And this is an example of the seed library that we have at our LaSalle branch. And this is what they look like when they're nice and snug in the actual card catalog. And then, of course, the color coded tabs as well. So before I go forward, do we have any questions, Jen, that we want to address?
At this point, no. I just want to reiterate that all of this information will be shared with you via email. So don't worry too much about taking notes and trying to jot all of this down. You're going to have access to the full recording as well as the PowerPoints and any other supplemental information, such as specific forms that come up in today's discussion. So yeah, let's keep going.
Okay, publicity and promotion. Here's what the patron-facing side of the Seed Library will look like. Signage, what to include. So there's a lot of different free literature and free information and free signage that you can provide with Seed Library, sort of extra freebies that are absolutely wonderful information-wise. It does tend to be a rule in libraries, it seems, that the more signage you have, the less people look at it for some reason. But I find with seed libraries, that's actually not the case. I think people are actually very, very eager to see what's on offer. What you're going to want to include in the patron-facing side of things is borrowing and checkout procedures. How many packets are people allowed to take out? Do they speak to library staff before they sign those out or before they check them out? Or is it an honor system? Can people just come in and take them? How to save seeds, seed viability charts, seed planting times and charts. Hudson Valley Seed Co. has wonderful sort of seed planting growth guides that I'll show you in just a second. Upcoming events, anything related, anything with community organizations that might be related, any speakers that you might be having coming in related to gardening or related to fighting food insecurity, community partnerships organizations, plugs. You can shamelessly plug the organizations that you're working with. I'll show you in just a second. I'm about to shamelessly plug one of the organizations that we work with. And then hardiness zone maps. These are extremely useful because not everywhere in the United States, I mean, you're going to have all sorts of different hardiness zones. And based on that, various things can or cannot be grown in those areas. This is just an example from Richmond Free Library. This kind of sums it all up in one page. Again, it can be very elegant, all in one. You know, step 1, sign up, fill out a quick membership form. Step 2, select your seeds and record what you've checked out in your member record. Sow your seeds and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Be sure to check the packing year and plan to sow more densely for older seeds. And then save seeds from your open pollinated plants for personal use and bring some back to the library to share with others. That's it, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is an all-in-one right here. Patron sign-out sheet. This is our checkout list that we use at Vegetation Station. Only 3 packets taken out per person per day. I kind of want people to take out as much as they can, and I try to provide as many seeds as possible up front prior to the growing season. So if you want to be a little more, even more lax than this, then go ahead. If you want to, you know, only 2 packets per person, that's fine. It's really up to you. You have the flexibility to decide what it is that your community needs. And again, they just write down patron name, seed name, number of packets, and today's date. Handy brochure. This is probably something you're going to want to do because it allows people, A, to have all this information in one place, and also to share it with others. You know, maybe somebody who doesn't necessarily come into the library or who wouldn't think of coming to the library for, you know, seeds. They might have a neighbor and they might share this with them. So again, you're really trying to spread as much community awareness and engagement with the seed library as possible. And this is one really nice, portable, handy way of doing that. Again, you might want to include, obviously, library hours, location, phone number, and then include other organizations that you might be working with. We work in cooperation with Grassroots Garden of Western New York. And so I include the ability to go to their website right here. And then we also thank the Friends and all of the donation companies for helping us launch the seed library. And color coding, and then we include our mission. You're probably going to want a mission statement like this just to sort of let people know what your MO is. And then how to borrow. This explains the borrowing procedures. So this information is also, you know, it could be on a printout that's in, you know, a display next to the seed library, but it's also probably useful to have it in a way that people can take with them. This was all done on Canva, and I don't have, this is not really a Canva tutorial, but if you have any questions about Canva, I'd also be happy to answer those. It's people seem to be using Canva more and more in libraries, but not everyone, of course, is using Canva. So if you have any questions about Canva, I can answer those as well when it comes to designing flyers or brochures. This is the seed donations box that I was talking about earlier. You're going to want to have a seed donation flyer or include something about seed donations in the brochure. I have a separate flyer for donations again, just in case, you know, you don't want a brochure, you can just take the seed donations flyer. And just encouraging people to bring back donated seeds that are clean packaged, clearly labeled. And then, of course, we have this beautiful box here with our Little Shop of Horrors Venus flytrap that one of our library clerks so graciously painted for us. Again, this is the tie-in with art programs if you want to, or if you have local artists, you know, as long as you're, you know, paying them for their work, you know, or if they want to volunteer to do it, that's fine too. But, you know, this is a beautiful way of tying it in, again, with the community in a creative way. And then we also have a flyer for Grassroots Garden, Western New York. it's probably good to be working with a community organization. Honestly, it gets your name out there to more people. It builds goodwill with the community. Again, it's another way of building those localized sort of knowledge centers with people. You get people who go to the seed library. Maybe they want to go and garden on the weekend, where the community gardens are. And this is a really, really great way of sort of exchanging information. These organizations are always welcoming to everybody. They'd be more than happy to have people show up. Grassroots Gardens in particular, they have over 70 gardens in Buffalo and Niagara Falls. They've got, I've gone there multiple times. Sylvan, who runs it, they're wonderful. The whole thing is, it's really, really, really wonderful and welcoming to go and to do this. A lot of people are just sort of, sitting indoors, on the computer. Don't be afraid to go out and actually talk to community organizations and help people to build community resilience. Again, sponsors and community orgs, it's not just one organization, it's multiple. Local sustainability groups. You might have a community gardening club. Local seed savers groups. Maybe you have a seed saver exchange in your neighborhood. Maybe you have one that you found out about on social media. Don't be afraid to reach out to these community organizations on social media. Most of them are always, they would love to have people. They're hurting for people. Cooperative extensions, library and community space holders, university and community college horticulture departments. There's really no reason not to reach out. Even if you think that, well, I don't even know if my community college has a horticulture department. That's also something you can look into. Library and community volunteers, as I said earlier. Again, seed bomb programs and plant exchanges are particularly popular. If you can tie this in with programming, that's another great thing. And then invite speakers from these orgs to promote them. A lot of people would love to have the ability to, do a speaking presentation on what it is their community organization is doing. And then again, use social media to tap into local groups that already exist and that share your goals. And then this is just sort of the finished product of our seed library at LaSalle currently. So you can see the brochure, you can see the sign up, you can see some books, you can see up here we have sort of a grow operation from just Arizona, that's been cut in half, and then little dill starters here in these little Huggy containers. And then brochures down here. And then I want to just take a break really quick to show you the actual website. So this is the Niagara Falls Public Library website where I work, and this is the digital facing side. So in addition to having brochures and seed donation forms and literature, you can also have this on the website as well. It's probably good to have it in both places. You kind of want a digital presence and also a physical presence. If you cannot do this, that is totally understandable. Again, there's really no right or wrong way to do this. The only reason that I love using the website is because I can't print out all of the water and light requirements on envelopes. Sometimes there's just not enough space to print out for each particular variety, all of the information that is on the packet when I get it and it's donated. And in order to solve that problem, what I've done is I've taken each of the color-coded rows for vegetables, herbs, flowers, and fruits, and then I've linked them to the actual nonprofit's seed variety on the website. So for instance, if you picked up cucumber from the seed library and you wanted to find out all about it, you could literally just click on that link and it'll take you right to the Sow Right Seeds page, and it'll show you how to grow and all of the growing details. So what the soil should be like, germination temperatures, planting depth, all of that information that you would normally receive right on this packet. I'm just giving you the packet right on the website. Again, that's very time consuming. This might not be something that you have time to do. If you can do it, that's wonderful. But this is essentially just a reflection of the information that is at the seed library itself, with a link to the actual varieties and all of the information for how it is that people can grow them. And then I'm just going to give one more example of another way that you might be able to do this digitally. This is Norris Seed Library in Tennessee. I really like this because it kind of shows you everything all in one. Again, very similar to the seed library that we have at our LaSalle branch that I just showed you. You've got the flyer, you've got the brochures, you have hardiness zone maps down here. You have last frost, first frost, sort of growing season information and planting guides. And then you have everything right here. Theirs is a little more complicated than mine in terms of color coding. They have actually specific eggplants, beets, radishes, etc. If you want to go that in depth, you can. Again, you don't need to. And then on their website, they have 1, 2, 3, really basic. You click on the seed catalog, they link you straight to their Excel spreadsheet where they're keeping tabs on how much of everything they have and where it's been sourced from. Questions, more seed resources. If you click on this, it'll take you to a Google Drive that has all of the information that is here in digital form. So again, you just want to kind of mirror the physical presence digitally online if you can't. And if not, that is absolutely fine as well. And also information about donating seeds. I like this because it specifies that they don't want GMO seeds, chemically treated seeds, patented seeds. If this is something that you really want to include, it can't hurt. We do accept safe seeds, hybrid F1 seeds, commercially sold seeds, as long as they, do not fall under any of these criteria up here. And then seed donations can be brought to the front desk or put in a waterproof container bag. So again, this is exactly the same thing as the seed donation form, but it's on the actual website. So if people don't come into the library and they just are surfing around on the library website and come across it, they'll know exactly what they can and can't bring. And then I just want to mention very quickly here before I wrap up, the Seed Library Network. A lot of the pictures of repurposed seed libraries that have been in this presentation have been lifted bodily from Seed Library Network. I love this site, and so I want to give them attribution because they're really, really wonderful. As I mentioned before, there's a seed library map at Seed Library Network. They have a census, so if you have a seed library and you have not filled out the census, it only takes about 15 minutes to fill it out. They ask all sorts of great questions about, what sort of organization, how many people are you serving? And then they have an actual map. So you can physically go and see the seed library map. And this is another great way of finding out who is around you, who is doing this around you. And maybe you want to reach out to them. If you're in a consortium of multiple libraries, maybe you want to exchange resources that way. And then they also have special collections in school seed libraries on the Seed Library Network website. This is extremely important. I'm just a public librarian, so I have no experience launching a seed library in a school or an academic library. But I mean, school seed libraries, native seed libraries, academic libraries, dye and fibers, herbal seed collections. And this is just a wonderful resource. It'll just literally lay out the questions that you need to consider beforehand, and then basically tell you, what you're going to need, how much labor, how much time, how much it's going to cost. So this is essentially a more detailed version of my talk today that anybody can access online. And that's it. That's all I got. And if anybody has any questions, I would love to entertain them.